Hey guys, what's going on? So I got a special guest for us today. We got Robin Bowman. He's one of my students in our YouTube ads training who's crushing it. He's doing nearly $500,000 a month with YouTube ads in the Dutch market for his clients. He runs an agency in the Netherlands. Robin, welcome. And I'd love for you to just tell us a little bit about what you're doing and a little bit about your story, right? Like how you got into YouTube ads.
Yeah, so if I have to explain what I'm doing in a nutshell, is I help people with online courses sell that stuff online. I work with Spanish teachers, speed teacher in the finance market, education. I help business coaches sell their online courses. And my story, how I got involved with YouTube ads is, the maybe famous Facebook disasters, where you open up one day and your personal advertising access is totally blocked. You can't get it back anymore. So that's kind of how I started looking into YouTube, because of course, I figured out a few things to still run ads. And then I also figured out that, especially in the finance market and the business opportunity niche, you can say so much more in a YouTube ad. So you can actually, say what you want to say in an ad, and not like Facebook have to write around it. So then I kind of, transitioned in there, and that has been working way better for most niches than Facebook ads.
That's actually really interesting that you say that you can say what you want in the ads. That's 100% true, where with Facebook ads, compliance is a lot tougher. Ads get disapproved for saying even the smallest thing. While on YouTube, especially in the financial niche, you can kind of get away with saying a lot. Things that, maybe you shouldn't be saying. If the FTC got involved, it might be a little tricky, but I've seen these gurus say some pretty ridiculous stuff. And that's one of the advantages of YouTube, is you definitely have a little bit more leeway and more room to be able to kind of push more aggressive claims if you need to. Obviously, you need to make sure that you're compliant with whatever local laws and rules and regulations, etc. And so what I'm interested in is, in the Netherlands, is YouTube really popular? I know I got a few people in my course who are from the Netherlands. Like, is it just you guys running YouTube ads, or is there like a bunch of YouTube advertisers there?
So it's becoming more popular, of course, since Facebook is getting stricter. But yeah, most people don't really know, or like don't even think about it. So there's no, for example, you guys are like a specific YouTube agency. I am not really aware of agencies that only run YouTube ads. It's really mainly Facebook ads. And when you say, hey, you can run it on YouTube, it's like, oh, how does that work? And nobody knows that the scale on YouTube is like, I don't know internationally how it is, but in the Netherlands, I feel like the scale on YouTube is almost, twice. So before you hit that ceiling, in the Netherlands, for most niches, it's twice as big. So you can spend twice as much budget there quite easily, right? So on Facebook, you can, of course, refresh your creative like all the time, and then you can go also quite far. But with YouTube, the scale was huge. And yeah, most people are not really aware of that yet.
Got it. And what do you see working in the Netherlands market? Is it mostly high ticket courses, or is it lower priced products? Like, what kind of pricing and structure of offer do you see working there?
It's actually funny because in the course you really talk about, that you have to watch out with numbers so that it can actually work, because it's harder on Facebook, harder than on Facebook. And that's also what I see. It's a bit more expensive, right? So I have clients, for example, in the meditation niche on Facebook, can spend a lot, and they're like at 50 cents, €1 per lead. And then on YouTube, it's sometimes twice the price. But even with super low ticket products, like, I don't know, a €27 product, it can still work in the Netherlands. So I don't really have anything that doesn't work. Although, of course, the more high ticket stuff, the webinars, you can scale further, because the conversions just hold up better, right? So if the lead price go up, it's not that big of a deal. And then you can really spend up to 1K per day. I believe even more in the Netherlands. But with those lower ticker offers, you're kind of getting stuck in between, like, maybe 3 to 5K a month, which is still huge for the Netherlands, because if most people are already happy if they make let's say 10, 20K per month extra with YouTube. So
yeah, that makes sense. And I do think that that's like one of those things where, a traffic platform is uncompetitive when you can make low ticket stuff work really well. Usually as prices increase, it becomes tougher to sell low ticket, and high ticket becomes better. And honestly, in my opinion, it's just always better to start high ticket, then go low ticket, right? When you want to go really mass market and get more customers into the door, but you always want to start with high ticket, always have the high ticket to sell them. That's one thing I've noticed. I'm curious, in terms of the creative that you do. So you're running an agency, you're working with info product clients. How do you script ads for your clients, and do you have them shoot it, or do you have other solutions for that?
Yeah, so when we get started, most time I let them just shoot it. Like literally some people, I tell them don't do it on the selfie camera, use the normal camera, but they still do it on the selfie camera, and that's still working fine. But I always write some kind of script, depends a bit per client. Sometimes I just tell them, hey, if the Facebook script works, then I'm like, hey, just do the Facebook script. Especially in the more sensitive niches, I rewrite the script, right, to start with a direct question or a bolder statement. And then, yeah, I just literally write the whole text. And when it gets better, I kind of go into more like a bullet point approach. And I have like 1 or 2 clients. I don't know if that's an English word, who have like a teleprompter, right? So they read from the screen, but the more they practice, the less they actually need it. So yeah, I script the whole thing, and at some point, that's I guess the good thing in the Netherlands. If they really scale it up, I'm like, hey, listen, it's time for you to get a professional videographer there. And yeah, I think we talked actually about it in a live call with a business guy. We got him a professional a video guy, and now his like view rates and click-through rates are way higher, right? So, but to be honest, you can even get away with it if you're not scaling massively, to just do it with your selfie phone. But I recommend them, of course, to do professionally if possible.
Yeah, like even with a selfie, like we've had ads 2 or 7 figures with a selfie, but usually the presenters, they knew what they were doing. What I find with selfie video ads is they can be done well, but you have to have great lighting and you have to have great audio. So usually where people mess up is they'll do a selfie ad, but they'll just have really bad lighting, or they'll hold it way too close, or they'll have a lot of camera shake, and or it will be in a loud place, right? So if you're going to do a selfie video ad, you just need to be very aware. Maybe get like a lapel mic, or maybe have shoot in a quiet environment, but be careful with the audio environment, and be careful with the fact that, hey, sometimes if the lighting's bad, it's not going to look great. But selfie ads can work super well. And you can also do a selfie ad with a camera. So you can have like some sort of camera and do the selfie style, and you're holding the camera in your hand, and it just looks more professional. But yeah, iPhone ads can work quite well. The main thing with shooting ads, and this is something we kind of have to, basically when clients get back to us with video and we have to send it back, or we have to be like, hey guys, we need you to shoot this again and try being more energetic. That's like the big thing, the delivery. And I personally find that difficult as well, because right now I'm shooting ads for my course and I'm doing ads for them. And basically I'm getting a lot of feedback from my team that, hey, your ads are kind of boring and I need to redo them. So this week, actually, like literally half of what I'm doing is I'm scripting new ads and like practicing the delivery and trying to get better at making ads for myself. It's funny because, when you tell clients to do it, it's pretty easy to say, hey, yeah, be more energetic. But then when you're doing it for yourself, you're like, oh man, this is pretty hard, but it's worth it, right? Like it's just getting those higher click-through rates and basically a higher engagement will make sure your ads are just cheaper and you can get cheaper leads. And then you get cheaper leads, you get a higher ROI. So it's really important to keep that in mind. Is if you're shooting YouTube ads, you can't just expect it to be like, hey, you put in 10 minutes of effort and get the result. You really have to be like, hey, I need to work at this. I need to get better at this. I need to try different things. And I really need to work on my delivery. And I need to put actual time and effort into this. So for me, for example, this week, I'm like tomorrow, the whole day, I'm putting into just practicing my delivery of ads, like coming up with different angles, and basically trying to really memorize the script so that I can do it well. And if you look at it, some of the best advertisers out there in the make money online niche, they're just really good at doing great ads. So like if you look at guys like Dean Graziosi, this guy has been doing ads for like 20, 30 years. And because of that, you see an ad of his on YouTube, it's extremely engaging. And because of that, you get cheaper lead costs. So that's really important, because that's a 2x difference in lead cost that you can get from having great ad versus an okay ad. I'm also interested to hear that let's say, can you give us like an example of a client that you really scaled up to high levels and what kind of audiences you used with this client?
Hey guys, before we move on, I wanted to talk about something very special very quickly. If you are interested in running or are already running YouTube ads, this is for you. I wanted to introduce you to a few people that are killing it with YouTube ads. Mike made over $1.5 million with e-commerce YouTube ads. Bastian did over $300,000 for a client at a 10x ROAS. Boyd's making $5,000 a day with his course. Kale made a client $40,000 from just $8,000 in ad spend. Lloyd made a client $33,000 from $12,000 in ad spend. Do you know what the one thing they have in common? They're all part of my Expert YouTube Ads training program. We have the most technical YouTube ads course in the market with live weekly calls, a Facebook group where you can ask any question you want about YouTube ads, and more. And some of the best students spending thousands or even $10,000 a day on YouTube advertising. So there's a link below in the description to go book a demo call. Go and book a call to get a preview of the course and see if it's a fit for you and if it can help you get your YouTube ads to $5,000 a day or more. Now let's get back to the rest of this video.
Yeah, so one client in the finance niche I really scaled up. So what I felt in the Netherlands was that actually it depends a bit per niche, but keywords don't really work because there's not enough search volume on it, right? So I most of the time went quite broad. If I use in-market, it's most time literally first level. So just like you have or like topics. In topics you have finance. I grab finance. Same with the in-market. I don't really know. I think it's financial services or something. And I just grab the financial services. And with some exceptions, I went like one step further and I use like you have investment services and financial planning services, right? So generally speaking, I feel that that has been working the best in the Netherlands, of course, because the target audiences are smaller. And to be honest, I also most time I start with the end goal of scaling up. So I know it's better to start at a bit broader audience so that I actually have the space to scale up. But like you hear people do stuff like with the in-market and still narrow down the keyword and like just you can't forget about that in the Netherlands, or at least for my clients. So that's generally what I have been doing and didn't really see a difference. Topics sometimes outperforms in-market, and in-market topics I felt that you would expect in-market to be a bit more expensive maybe because of their buying intent, but I didn't really feel that was the case. So it just depended more on the subject within in-market or topics. So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I agree with that. I'm not a big fan of layering. I feel whenever we've tried layering, it's just been a hard time spending it. It's been more expensive, while usually sticking to broader audiences for us has worked well. But just the fact of the matter is that with YouTube and with Google, there's just so many different targeting options that even if you go with broader audiences, you literally have like thousands of possible different things you can do, right? There's so many different topics in market. There's so many different keywords you can target, custom intent, custom affinity. You literally have just an endless number of audiences. So you may as well test the broader ones to just get some volume in there versus just, trying to narrow it down too much where, okay, you're spending $10 a day and it's like, and you can't spend anymore, but it's working well. It's very slow to scale an account and get real spend when you're doing that. And I've also found that counterintuitively, a lot of times broader audiences actually get us better ROI than super narrow audiences. What we found with super narrow audiences is every advertisers they get onto YouTube, the first thing they're like, oh, I'm going to try placements in my niche. And it's like, because of that, those audiences can typically be very, very expensive. And so often we find that when we go broader and test, a bunch of broad audiences, you'll find those one or two gold audiences, which are, they're getting you good leads, but they're also very cheap. So that's an interesting thing about YouTube, because the audiences are completely different. You don't really have similar audiences. Yeah, you have, so you don't really have lookalike audiences. You have these similar audiences, but they are typically not the best. Like sometimes they work, but a lot of times they don't end up working that well. So with Facebook, your typical strategy is like, hey, bunch of lookalike audiences. With YouTube, it's different because you got all these different types of audiences and all of them can work really well. And in different accounts, some might work better than the other, but it's not like a clear thing that's like, hey, you have this lookalike that you just go off of. You kind of have to try a few different things. You might, when you're launching your first campaigns on YouTube, instead of, one audience type, you might be launching some keyword campaigns, some placement campaigns, maybe a custom audience or two, maybe a topic audience. And usually we find that that works a lot better rather than just trying one audience type.
Yeah.
Okay, so
and also the skill, also the skill argument. I don't know how that's internationally, but I don't really take on clients who's starting from zero, so they have to make a certain amount of revenue. And what I tell them is the mindset shift. This is something I figured out on Facebook, that if you want to scale, you don't want to be like messing around with audience, but you want to think like, how can I make this work with no targeting? That's what I figured out at Facebook. Like, if you have good ads and you're like a meditation coach, you can put in just the Netherlands and Belgium there. You get good lead prices, and still those people buy in the back, because they wouldn't have clicked on it if they would not be interested in it. And then just by thinking, okay, if this audience doesn't work, would you white targeting? And the thing is more like, okay, how am I going to make it creative that makes this audience work? And what I said, I don't know how this is internationally, but that's what first thing I tell my clients who want to scale. Like, don't worry about the audiences. I got that. The question is, how are we going to make such good creatives that the targeting doesn't matter anymore? And then you have the skill, which is, I don't know, how is that internationally actually? Feel the same or?
Yeah, no, it's 100%. Like I agree 100% with that statement. I usually find that people when they get too obsessed with audiences on YouTube, they're just overthinking it. They'll you'll get that case where they're like, oh, I think this audience is too broad, or I think this audience isn't exactly what I'm, like what my client base would be like. And it ultimately comes down to, is this getting results or not? And you don't know what's going to get results. I've had make money online webinars that have had amazing ROAS on green living enthusiasts I think that was like an affinity audience, right? It just extremely, obviously when you start out and you're launching a new account, you want to go for audiences that are relevant. But as you start scaling, and especially as you start getting past the $2,000 a day mark, you really what you're doing is you're just testing anything that, anything at all, really, because you want to go broad. You want to be testing a lot of broad audiences, and Google's algorithm will just essentially latch on to some audiences that for whatever reason they just start performing, right? So it's really, really difficult to be very precise with YouTube audiences, and you can be in the beginning, but as you're scaling, honestly, like what I've seen is just, you don't know what's going to work. We've seen NFL.com work as a custom audience for, I don't know if I want to, well, I already said it, but we've had that work for a completely unrelated niche that has nothing to do with football. So because of that, it's like, hey, open targeting can work, really broad audiences can work. What you can do is you can go inside your Google Analytics and kind of look at which kind of affinity or in-market audiences or topic audiences have a high correlation with high conversion rates. So that's something I kind of basically you can do. Now, getting into a few other questions, right? So running an agency in the Netherlands, what is that like? Do you find that it's difficult to get clients, or do you find that there's a lot of clients and less competition?
That's a good question. I feel sometimes it's a little bit harder to find clients who are already at that point where you can help them, that they can actually afford your service, because the international niches are so big that there are so many examples of maybe somebody is telling you how to make a chicken house or something, you know what I mean? And they make it work, and then you see whatever, for example, their Facebook ads, and you send them a DM, hey, do you want to do YouTube, right? And then they are already maybe making like 100K per month, or like 50 or like 20. And in the Netherlands, there's a little bit less space for that. So I feel it's harder to find those clients. Also because I don't do real estate, right, or those local markets. So to find the right info products, it's a bit harder because they have to be at the right time in their business and have a working funnel. And yeah, I think a lot of people there are a lot of agencies in the Netherlands, but I had recently success with pitching the whole YouTube thing when everybody's like, hey, Facebook. I'm like, oh, you're advertising on Facebook. Oh, did you get a ban, or do you want to, build your business on only Facebook? And did you know YouTube has more skill? And then it's like, oh, yeah, I didn't know that. So YouTube less competition, Facebook more, but maybe a bit harder to find clients with the right budget and stuff like that.
Got it. That makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, that's really makes sense. And yeah, I'm curious, why did you end up deciding to join my training program? I think you joined us like a while ago, right?
Well, as a relative, I think 1.5, 2 months or something ago.
Nice.
But I've
Got
just
it.
been stalking every live call, I think, or like quite a few. Also one where I had you alone. So yeah, I mean, for me, it was like I kind of figured out YouTube on my own because I just heard about it and just, you know, I literally started just saying to clients, hey, do you want to try YouTube? And yeah, I got some nice results. And I was like, man, if I can make this work without, you know, just by my, you know, normal marketing knowledge and just thinking in systems, I was like, what else, you know, like how big can I make this? And then I just started looking around. Actually, I can't really remember how I found you guys. Oh, no, I think somebody recommended it. And like for 1 week, I was checking your videos, like super detailed technical breakdowns. I'm like, okay, these guys know what they're talking about. Then I checked your website. I saw that you worked with KinoBuddy, amazing selling machine. I mean, KinoBuddy was like, oh, but then I was kind of sold, and I was like, oh, amazing selling machine. And was it indestructible shoes?
Yeah.
I'm so, and then I was like, okay, like I don't know any other course who was actually working with those type of clients. In also so diverse niches, right? Because I'm not only in this opportunity, I'm also into, what I said, meditation, Spanish learning, speed reading. So that, you know, most people sell their online course with just like they know how to market their own stuff. And I was like, okay, you guys are still actively helping other people in like huge names in niches with a lot of competition. So then, you know, for me, the question was already made that I wanted to buy the course. The question was just when, and yeah, pretty much that.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool to hear. And what's been kind of like the biggest value that you've gotten since you've joined up?
I mean, I guess there's two parts, which is that you guys are actually on a call and we can talk to you guys. And I had the luck that I sometimes quite got some almost one-on-one, of course. But the main thing is just more like a whole systematic approach of like, you know, how you structure everything, how you test everything. I didn't really have that yet. And also, you know, how to optimize things. So I have more like rules now where I'm like not just deciding on the spot. Because then you have to think, okay, I see so many views. Yeah, but view rate this and that. Okay, maybe I should turn this on or off. And then it just takes a lot of time. And also like that, I cannot really teach my employees how to do that. So that, and also, of course, I really like where the creative breakdowns of ads that are really working. So just, you know, doing multiple CTAs in the video, stuff like that. I never thought about that, right? And yeah, that's just been working really, really well. So yeah, I would say, yeah, no, that's actually it.
Yeah, man. I'm glad to have you in there. Really happy to have you on the weekly calls. It's funny because like some weeks it'll just be me and like 2 people, for whatever reason, and then some weeks it's more people. But yeah, I appreciate you joining our community. And yeah, I'm curious, how can people find out more about you? You know, like let's say somebody in the Netherlands watching this video, they're like, hey, I want to run some YouTube ads. How do they reach out to you?
Yeah, so my name is my website, so robertbouwman.nl.
Right there,
you can also
behind you. Maybe move your head a bit so they
can see.
Yeah.
So and also easiest thing is LinkedIn or Instagram, just Robert Bouwman. I think I rank #1 for Facebook advertising specialist on LinkedIn. So that's also some way you should be able to find me. But yeah, Instagram or LinkedIn. I have also my number on the website. So I just Google my name, Robert Bouwman, Facebook marketing, YouTube marketing. They should be fine.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, this was a really great interview. Now, before we leave, I want to ask you, what's your #1 tip for somebody who's out there who's thinking about getting into YouTube ads? What's your #1 tip that you would leave this interview with?
How to get into YouTube ads successfully?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just what we talked about is, of course, you always have to test a lot, which is normal in the online advertising space. But yeah, really that focus on creative, because you actually mentioned that, you know, you have to practice your own videos. And I have the same thing with a guy I'm starting with. I just see that his energy is lower, his view rate is like half that. So that means like the cost per lead is twice as much. So just really look at like the creative statistics and just really focus on that creative and make that work. Because when I joined also, I just saw so many extra things. And then you think it might be working fine or the video is fine, but it's really about just making good ads, like basically, and you can figure that out quite easily by just looking at, you know, view rate and click-through rate, and then you know what's your problem, and then you just have to practice a lot. It's also what I'm working on. And I'm looking forward to what we talked about, that I want to do my VSL case study funnel to see how I would actually do on video ads.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just focus on the creatives and then just the two base things like view rate and click-through rate, and then
Awesome.
you can kind of figure it out. Yeah.
So basically, really put an effort into the ad. Don't be lazy about it. Like really try to kind of work on your delivery, practice it, look at what other people are doing, and don't be lazy about your ad. 100%.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for jumping on here. Guys, if you guys are interested in checking out the YouTube ads course, there'll be a link below. And yeah, if you guys want to watch more interviews, there's a whole playlist of interviews I have, so you can go check those out. And I'll make sure there's a link in the end screen to check out another interview I did with Mike, who's doing 300K a month with e-commerce YouTube ads. So I'll have an end screen link over there as well. So thanks for watching, everybody. Give it a like and subscribe if you like this. And yeah, I'll see you guys around.